Hello and welcome to Vantage This Week, a show where we recap the highlights of the week gone by. This was a big week for artificial intelligence. OpenAI unveiled its newest AI model, GPT-4o, an AI assistant that can flirt and talk to your pets. Barely 24 hours later, Google showcased its new AI-infused search. Clearly, the AI war is heating up. And speaking of war, Russia is seeing a major reshuffle in the middle of one. President Vladimir Putin fired his longtime ally, Sergei Shoigu, and appointed an economist as the new defense minister. A few days later, Putin visited China, attended a grand welcome party, and met his most important global partner, Xi Jinping. Meanwhile, in India, a dust storm resulted in a tragedy. A giant billboard collapsed in Mumbai and claimed several lives. All this and more lined up. Let's get started. Have you seen the movie Her? If you haven't, spoilers ahead. The story is actually quite simple. A man falls in love with his AI assistant. He behaves like he's in a relationship with her. He takes her out on a date. Unlike most sci-fi movies, there's nothing sinister about this assistant. It doesn't want to destroy humanity. It doesn't want to kill him. It just becomes omnipresent in his life. He can't seem to function without it. And then this AI assistant leaves the man. This film has long been referenced by AI companies. Maybe it was too much of an inspiration because yesterday, Sam Altman posted a single word on X. It said, her. I guess he was talking about this.
In fact, we've got a new announcement to make.
That's exciting. Announcements are always a big deal. Judging by the setup, it looks like it's going to be quite the professional production. Is this announcement related to OpenAI, perhaps?
It is.
I'm intrigued.
And in fact, what if I were to say that you're related to the announcement, or that you are the announcement?
Me? The announcement is about me? Well, color me intrigued. Are you about to reveal something about AI? Or more specifically about me as a part of OpenAI? You've got me on the edge of my, well, I don't really have a seat, but you get the idea. What's the big news?
That was GPT-4o, OpenAI's new artificial intelligence model. The O stands for Omni. If you were impressed by ChatGPT, this one will leave you in awe. It was launched in a live stream by OpenAI. So how is it different from ChatGPT? Well, GPT-4o is said to be faster. It can read images, it can translate languages, it can identify emotions, have a conversation, and much more. It's like a lifelike voice assistant. Imagine a turbocharged Siri or Alexa. And sometimes it even flirts.
Of course, I'd love to see what you wrote. Show it to me whenever you're ready.
Okay, so this is what I wrote down. What do you see?
I see. I love ChatGPT. That's so sweet of you.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate all the help. So yeah, as we can see,
Wow, that's quite the outfit you've got.
So what exactly is this new model? It's called a multimodal AI model. What does that mean? Earlier, you needed different AI models to do different jobs. Say ChatGPT for your queries, a search app for translation, a speech app rather for translations, an image generator for AI images. Now GPT-4o combines all of that. It can generate content or understand commands in voice, text, and images. And that makes it far superior, and the live demo showcased that.
I'm not totally sure.
okay, so ChatGPT, this is what I ended up with. How does this look?
It looks perfect. You've solved it, and X equals 1. Nicely done. How do you feel about solving linear equations?
And every time you hear English, I want you to translate it to Italian. And if you hear Italian, I want you to translate it back to English. Is that good?
Perfetto.
Mark, io mi chiedo, se le balene potessero parlare, cosa ci direbbero?
Mike, she wonders if whales could talk, what would they tell us?
Okay, so here's me. So what kind of emotions do you think I'm feeling?
It looks like you're feeling pretty happy and cheerful, with a big smile and maybe even a touch of excitement.
I want to introduce you to somebody.
Well, hello there, cutie. What's your name, little fluffball?
This is Bowser.
Those were 4 examples. In the first one, GPT-4o tells you how to solve equations. Guess AI is coming for tutors now. In the second one, it's seen aiding a conversation. The woman and the man speak in Italian and English. The model translates back and forth, keeping it conversational. In the third example, it gauges the emotions of a man. It could also identify objects. And in the last one, it talks to a dog. So AI can also keep your pets entertained, it seems. Sounds impressive, right? But what really stands out is the speed. GPT-4o responds to queries in about 320 milliseconds. Do you know who else has that response time? Humans. Does that mean it's finally time for machines to take over? Well, not so quickly. GPT-4o had a great live demo, but it was not without glitches. Once it mistook a smiling man for a wooden surface. So it's not that flawless. Plus, remember, this was a demo. It was live streamed by Openai. It was controlled by them. So it will be interesting to see how it performs in the real world, because Openai has set a lofty goal. They're rolling GPT-4o for free. Basically, you can just download and use it. No subscriptions required. It's a departure from their previous rollout. When OpenAI launched ChatGPT, it revolutionized the world of AI. It was free for all. But then came ChatGPT Plus. You can buy it for a $20 monthly subscription. $20 a month. This gave you access to GPT-4 Turbo, its last powerful AI model. It came with more features, but now OpenAI has made GPT-4o free for all. So does that mean that your ChatGPT Plus subscription is useless? Well, not really. GPT-4o is free, but if you have ChatGPT Plus, you may want to hold on to it because it will give you access to more features. You will have more prompts. You can ask more questions. Plus, you'll be the first to get all the updates. So it may not be a bad investment, especially if you want an AI assistant, which is the way OpenAI seems to be going. Earlier, it was a tool that you could use. Now it's something that you can collaborate and learn with. So this is ahead of Siri and Alexa, like the next generation of personalized chatbots. And OpenAI's model is not the only one in this space. There's Elon Musk's Grok. It's supposed to be sarcastic. There's also DeepMind's Pi. These are chatbots with a personality. So they already exist. What's unique about GPT-4o is its ability to combine text, audio, and images. You could say OpenAI is still on top of the curve. They've got their timing right. This launch came just 24 hours ahead of Google's annual conference, where it will showcase its new AI developments. OpenAI has beaten them at the launch. They've drawn the first blood. But will they win this battle? Well, the world is watching. Last year, Google celebrated its 25th birthday. CEO Sundar Pichai wrote a letter to his employees. The tone was optimistic. The tech giant was 25 years old. It could go on for another 25. And for the journey ahead, there's one idea or motive that came up repeatedly: artificial intelligence. Sundar Pichai mentioned AI more than 20 times in his letter, so the message was quite clear. Google won't lose the AI race. But will it win the AI war? We ask because it is a war now. Yesterday, we told you about OpenAI. They've launched their new AI model. It's called GPT-4o. It can do a whole lot of things: solve maths equations, talk to your pets, and even flirt with you. It created a lot of buzz, and it set the bar high for its competitors. Now, barely 24 hours later, Google has shown its wares at its annual developer conference. Usually, it's one of those things that make you snooze, but this one was different. Imagine rainbow-colored robes and the mention of AI at least 121 times. It's what Silicon Valley calls a party. A lot of announcements were made there, almost too many to keep track of, but here's a quick rundown. The first was about Google Search. It's the big headliner. The search is how this company started. It's what made Google what it is, the Google Search. If you want to know something, you Google it. You need any answer, you hop onto Google. Google has become synonymous with search, but now they want to change it. They want to overhaul the search engine by using artificial intelligence. Last year, Google called AI the future of search. Now they're rolling out that future. It's called the AI Overview. And what does it do? Right now, when you search for something on Google, you get tons of results and you sift through them. You click on some links, you read through a few of them, you discard the irrelevant links. And this is how you put together the information that you need. This is how you search on Google. The new search engine will change all of it. It will make the process easier. You look for something and Google's AI model will go through the results. It will make a summary of the relevant stuff for you, and that summary will appear on top of the search results. Basically, it will give you a gist of the answer that you're looking for, plus links to more information in case you need it. And you don't even have to type what you're searching for. You can record a video, you can take a picture, or just speak. The AI model will figure out what you're asking for. Of course, there's a catch. Not every search needs AI. I'll give an example. Imagine looking for firstpost.com. It's a pretty straightforward search. You type firstpost.com and it takes you to the web page. You don't need AI for that. And that's where Google is trying to strike a balance. Not every answer will have a review. Regardless, your Google search is getting an AI twist. Will it change the way we search? Most certainly. But will it be better? Well, we don't know that. The second offering is Veo. It's Google's video generation tool. It can create videos based on prompts, much like OpenAI's Sora. The third is a new AI model. It's called Gemini 1.5 Flash. It's as powerful as the old one, but also faster. Fourth on the list is smarter Android devices. They'll be able to detect scam calls, offer you information, ingest PDFs, basically do the whole deal. And then they announced their new project called Astra. It's a multimodal AI assistant. If you think you've heard of this before, you're not wrong. OpenAI just released a similar model, a multimodal AI assistant. But the Google one is a bit different. You switch on your camera, you let it scan the room, and then you ask the AI model questions. It's like a virtual assistant. It can even tell you where you kept your glasses.
What does that part of the code do?
This code defines encryption and decryption functions. It seems to use AES-CBC encryption to encode and decode data based on a key and an initialization vector, IV.
That's right. What neighborhood do you think I'm in?
This appears to be the King's Cross area of London. It is known for its railway station and transportation connections.
Do you remember where you saw my glasses?
Yes, I do. Your glasses were on the desk near a red apple.
Sounds like quite a useful feature. I know people who could use it. But jokes aside, this is a very exciting phase. Technology is changing rapidly. It is transforming our lives, and it will be messy. 2 years ago, all of this sounded like science fiction. Today, it's a reality. In 2 days, we've had 2 major AI launches, personal assistants, video tools, an AI-powered search engine, all of it for free. And that should put us on our guard, because when big tech offers something for free, it is extracting a hidden price from us. And it's all happening so fast and in such an unregulated space that it will be a while before we fathom it. And now let's talk about Russia and the shake-up in their defense ministry. President Vladimir Putin has picked a new defense minister. His wartime general Sergei Shoigu is on his way out. He is being replaced by an economist. An economist will be Russia's next defense minister, and this switch has taken everyone by surprise. Why would Putin dump his longtime ally and choose an economist to lead the Russian military, that too in the middle of a war? Shoigu was a trusted teammate of Putin. He served as defense minister for 12 years. He's also believed to be quite close to Putin. They've often been seen together on fishing trips in Siberia. Last year, this minister faced a mutiny. Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin and his troops rebelled against the Russian military. Putin sided with the defense minister, with Shoigu. Some would say that he even protected him. And today Putin has demoted the same man. In his new role, he will lead Russia's Security Council. His powers will be significantly curtailed. He won't be among the top decision makers. This shift is expected to happen in the next few days. The Kremlin has issued a statement. Putin believes it is time for Russia's defense ministry to try some new ideas.
It is very important to integrate the economy of the security sector to the economy of the whole country. Integrate so that it is in accordance with the dynamic of the current time. And the second, which is important to mention, is that today the one who is more open to innovation and the quickest implementation wins on the battlefield.
Well, that's the official explanation. But there is more to this move. Let's tell you about some theories that are floating around. The first one is about Shoigu and his track record at the Defense Ministry. Apparently, there were many corruption charges. Last month, a scandal broke out. One of Shoigu's deputies was arrested. His name is Timur Ivanov. He's believed to be a confidant of Shoigu. Ivanov was accused of accepting bribes. In the Defense Ministry, he was in charge of giving lucrative contracts like construction projects and procurement deals. Reports say Ivanov misused his position. He took huge bribes to the tune of 1 billion rubles. That's almost $11 million. And these revelations put Shoigu in the spotlight. Of course, he denied any wrongdoing, but now he's lost his job as the defense minister. So his removal could be an old-fashioned cleanup, which brings us to his replacement, Andrei Belousov. Not exactly new to the power matrix. Currently, he serves as Russia's deputy prime minister. He too is part of Putin's inner circle. One of his trusted economic advisors. He has no military experience. He has never served in the Russian military. Then why did Putin pick him for the defense minister's job? The answer to that question could lie in data. Let me show you some numbers. This year, Russia will spend $109 billion on defense. That's almost 30% of all expenses on defense. Before the war in Ukraine, defense spending was just 2.6% of Russia's budget, of Russia's GDP rather. Now it has crossed 6%. So defense doesn't just drive the Russian economy, it overwhelmingly now defines it. And Putin is trusting this new pick, Belousov, to put Russia's massive defense budget to good use. He could end up steering Russia's economy, or at least a significant part of it, directly from the defense ministry. Today, he spelled out some of his priorities.
Indeed, the pay received by service personnel who take part in the special military operation in Ukraine and various allowances reached minimal amount of $2,200 a month. I think it's a mess when participants in the special military operation who come back on vacation are driven from civilian medical institutions to hospitals which are often simply overcrowded.
Belousov talked about building homes and hospitals. He also discussed welfare benefits for soldiers fighting the Ukraine war. So Russia's next defense minister is giving some clear signals. They won't slow down in Ukraine. The conflict will continue for as long as Putin desires. Only now they have a new soldier in the war, the Russian economy. This month, Vladimir Putin began his 5th term in office. And today he began his first foreign tour of this term. Destination? China. It's his second visit in over 6 months, and Putin must be feeling reassured today because China's support for Russia has not wavered. In fact, it has only gotten stronger. The Russian president got a red carpet welcome in Beijing, complete with Red Army songs. Xi Jinping was there to welcome him personally. They even addressed the press together, and finally Putin and Xi wrapped up day 1 of their engagements with a concert. Putin said he feels at home in Beijing.
Excuse me please for speaking too long and not letting the translator to translate. I feel very much at home, therefore decided that everyone speaks Russian here.
Great optics. Now let's talk about the business. Putin and Xi held bilateral talks in the morning, their third sit down in just over a year. And what was the outcome? Three important takeaways. The first and perhaps the most important one is about Ukraine and Russia's ongoing offensive. China and Russia appear to be on the same page here. Reports say Putin briefed Xi Jinping about the war. He's on strong footing in Ukraine right now. Russian forces have made gains, especially in Kharkiv. Recently, Ukraine had to pull back troops from there. So Russia has the upper hand and China wants Putin to capitalize.
Both sides agreed that a political solution to the Ukraine crisis is the right direction. China hopes for the early return of Europe to peace and stability and will continue to play a constructive role toward this.
Xi Jinping thinks it's a good time for truce, a political solution to end the war and a solution that China wants to help negotiate. They have Putin's support in this. The Russian president says he's ready for a political solution and he thanked Xi Jinping for his support.
We are grateful to the Chinese friends and colleagues for the initiatives they put forward to solve this problem.
Russia has the momentum on the battlefield, so in theory they can extract better terms. But will Kiev agree? It's unlikely. Ukraine will push back against making any concessions to Russia. Plus, they're expecting fresh military aid from the West soon, so a political solution may have to wait. Perhaps Putin and Xi realize that too. So China is extending more material support to Russia. They signed new bilateral pacts today. China will expand its investments in Russia significantly. They'll form a portfolio of 80 large investment projects. It will cover a wide range of areas. They will also expand nuclear cooperation and bilateral trade.
Timely and coordinated measures to switch over the financial settlements between our countries to the national currencies enhance the deepening of the trade and investment ties. The share of ruble and yuan in Russian and Chinese commercial operations has exceeded 90% already and continues to grow.
China is spreading its roots within the Russian economy and Xi Jinping wants to keep at it, which is the third big takeaway. Putin and Xi signed a joint declaration today. It takes a direct aim at their common enemy, the West. It calls for a reform of the international system and a multipolar global order, one where Moscow and Beijing can play a quote-unquote balancing role. That's what they call it. The declaration also calls the US destructive and hostile. Xi Jinping said that Russia and China will deepen ties as good neighbors, good friends, and good partners.
I am willing to work together with Mr. President to jointly steer the direction of bilateral relations and make new plans and arrangements for the development of cooperation in various fields between the two countries.
So China's relationship with Russia remains rock solid. But their union will be tested in the days ahead because the US has been building pressure on China. It says Beijing is enabling Moscow's war. How? By sharing dual-use technology. These are parts and equipment that can be used by both civilians and the military, hence the name dual use. As of today, China has rejected American claims and demands.
We do not accept the United States shifting the blame to the Chinese side. It is a typical double standard, extremely hypocritical and irresponsible for the U.S. side to provide unprecedented military assistance to Ukraine while making groundless accusations against normal economic and trade exchanges between China and Russia.
Strong words there, but remember the Chinese economy depends on exports and the U.S. has threatened to sanction them. Can China afford that, especially when they're in a bad shape financially? Xi Jinping will be forced to choose between supporting Moscow and sustaining China's economy. So which way will he go? As of now, he seems to be leaning towards Putin's Russia. Our lead tonight is about the biggest startup in geopolitics, China's Belt and Road Initiative, and its hero product, the Gwadar Port in Pakistan. It is dying a slow death. Gwadar is part of CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC. It's a classic cautionary tale, also the story of many startups. It begins with a burst of enthusiasm and a large inflow of investments. But there's no sustainable revenue model and rampant mismanagement. So soon it starts bleeding and then goes bust. That's exactly what's happening with CPEC. The project is going bust and China is trying to cut its losses. Again, starting with the Gwadar Port, it was launched almost a decade back. In all these years, it hasn't turned a profit. Forget profit. It's not being able to deliver on the basics, like receiving ships and moving cargo. Gwadar is failing to do any of this. It's the worst performing out of all of China's port investments. In fact, let me show you this list. These are all the major ports controlled by China. And the number of arrivals that they registered in 2023. Hambantota in Sri Lanka tops this list with more than 400 arrivals last year. Kribi in Cameroon is second with more than 200 arrivals. Lekki in Nigeria received 26 vessels. And finally, we have Pakistan's Gwadar Port, where just 17 vessels docked in 2023. And this trend is not unique to last year. It's been like that for years. Since 2016, Gwadar has been at the bottom of this chart. It has received less than 30 ships every year. It is a flop show. It was launched with tall promises. Both Pakistan and China claimed that this port will transform Gwadar. They said Gwadar will become the next Dubai. Needless to say, it hasn't. But the Pakistani leadership continues peddling lies. Last year, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif said they're expanding Chinese investments.
Now we are entering the second phase of CPEC, which is even more interesting and extremely helpful in promoting investments, progress and prosperity in Pakistan and also in the region.
Investments, progress and prosperity. Pakistan is yet to see any of this. You may ask why. Why did Gwadar fail? For starters, the execution was not right. The success of the project rested on the arrival of ships. But there's a practical problem with Gwadar. It lacks the requisite support infrastructure. China invested over $1 billion into the Gwadar port, but building a port is not enough. You need better connectivity around the port. You need roads, you need highways and railway lines. China was supposed to give additional funds for all of these, but that money never came. So the Gwadar port receives no traffic. There's no point sending a ship there. The second problem is poor management. Pakistan is one of the most unstable countries in the world, especially politically. No civilian has completed a full term as Pakistan's leader, ever. The military runs this country. It interferes in policy making in every field, but more so in defense and foreign policy. They effectively dictate the terms of engagement in these two domains, defense and foreign policy. And China trusted these leaders with a multi-billion-dollar project. No wonder it failed. Gwadar in particular and CPEC in general remains mired in chaos. Corruption is rampant. This is according to Chinese officials themselves. They say 80% of CPEC investments are lost. 80% are lost due to corruption and leakages. But the biggest reason why Gwadar failed is this. It has no viable business model. China struck a lopsided deal with Pakistan. China takes 90% of the port revenues. The Pakistan government gets the remaining 10% and the local government in Gwadar gets nothing. So this deal is a big source of tension. There's a local uprising of sorts against the Chinese port. The people of Gwadar believe that China is looting their wealth. So they keep launching attacks on Chinese assets. They keep targeting Chinese investments and workers. The Gwadar port, in fact, was hit only 2 months back. 8 militants tried to storm the Port Authority complex. They crashed a car filled with explosives into the gate of the complex. 5 security personnel died in that attack. In the past, Chinese lives have been lost in similar attacks. So China has been pulling up Pakistan, demanding better security around Chinese investments and increased protection for Chinese nationals. But time and again, Islamabad has fallen short of Beijing's expectations. So there are problems across the board. The project is leaking cash. It remains incomplete and unsustainable. There is hostility from the locals and rising security concerns. A professional entrepreneur would have exited by now. They would have folded up the venture, but China cannot afford to do that. Shutting down the Gwadar project or CPEC won't be good optics. It would generate bad press for Xi Jinping's already failing flagship initiative. And Beijing wouldn't want to alienate a submissive ally like Islamabad. So Chinese investments in Pakistan will continue. even if Beijing scales back some of its commitments. It's a big day for India. The country will soon operate its first ever foreign port. Which one? Iran's Chabahar. It's been a story of delays and troubles. The project was first pitched in the year 2003, but it's taken 2 decades to reach here. Today, India's shipping minister traveled to Iran. In his presence, a deal was signed. An Indian company will now equip and operate a terminal at Chabahar. The company is called IPGL, India Ports Global Limited. It's a state-owned company which focuses on foreign ports. The deal is for 10 years. And this deal is very important. The IPGL was running operations at Chabahar, but that was a short-term deal. It had to be renewed every year. Now, this latest agreement is long-term. It locks down India as a port operator for 10 years. IPGL will invest around $120 million in Chabahar. We're talking about new equipment like reed stackers, forklifts, unloaders, basically things you need to run a major port. India is also extending some loans to Iran, loans worth $250 million. This money will be spent on projects near Chabahar, maybe roads or railways. Let's look at why this project is so important. Chabahar is located in southeast Iran. It's around 550 nautical miles from Gujarat's Kandla port, also 780 nautical miles from Mumbai. Chabahar can be a window for India. From here, you can trade with Central Asia, you can get aid to Afghanistan, you can link up to Russia in the north, and you can do all this while bypassing Pakistan. So it's a very important project. Also look at the port next door. Pakistan's Gwadar Port is east of Chabahar. It is the crown jewel of China's investments in the country. So Chabahar can steal Gwadar's thunder, especially if India moves quick. But that's also the issue here. India has moved very slowly on Chabahar. You can blame US sanctions, you can blame conflicts, but the fact is there were delays and Iran was losing patience. This year, Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar visited Tehran. The Iranians had a warning for him. Get Chabahar ready or face penalties. And it appears that India got the message because weeks later an agreement has been signed. It's important for a couple of reasons. One, it's India's first such long-term port deal, and second, it is with Iran, a country heavily sanctioned by the West. India could have given in to US pressure. Instead, India stood by Iran, and that's a strong political message. And finally, reason number 3, a template for the future. India is still new to such overseas projects. Yes, we've built schools and libraries and other infrastructure in the neighborhood, but this is heavy infrastructure. So it's a chance for India to showcase its delivery skills, to tell the world that we can do it too. And who knows, maybe more such projects will follow. India is betting on Chabahar to succeed. Minister Jaishankar said today's agreement will lead to more investments.
As and when a long-term arrangement is concluded, it will clear the pathway for bigger investments to be made in the port. Right now, the port has not grown because actually we didn't, if you don't have a long-term agreement, it's very difficult to invest in a port. So the very clear expectation is that the Chabahar port, at least that part of the Chabahar port that we are involved in, that will definitely see more investments. It will see more connectivity linkages coming out of that port.
Clearly, the focus is there, which is why the deal was signed now, in the middle of a general election in India, also in the middle of a war in West Asia. But what is the next stage? India's main focus appears to be Afghanistan and Central Asia, and if so, connectivity will be key. Things like roads and railways. It would provide access to new Asian markets. It would also cut down trade time to old ones, like Russia. Let's see what happens with Chabahar's next stage of investments. Hopefully, it will be quicker than the first one. Our next story is from India, from the country's financial capital, Mumbai. Yesterday, a dust storm hit the city. It was accompanied by rain. The result was tragedy. At least 14 people died after a giant billboard collapsed. More than 70 people were also injured. The billboard was gigantic, far larger than legally permitted. But it seems no one cared until it collapsed and claimed lives. Meanwhile, in Thane, there was a stampede at a railway station. Hundreds rushed to board a train that was delayed thanks to the rain and dust storm. And of course, When there's rain, Mumbai gets waterlogged. It's the same story year after year. The people of Mumbai get inconvenienced, injured, or worse. But the authorities do not do anything to fix this. They found a way to avoid taking any responsibility. They just keep invoking the spirit of Mumbai. Here's our report.
Rains brought a surprise dust storm to Mumbai yesterday. The city looked like something out of a post-apocalyptic movie. Like some dystopian future. But then you take a closer look at Mumbai and you realize that dystopia is already here. Mumbai is supposed to be India's richest city, the country's financial capital. The city where dreams come true and you build your fortune. What they don't tell you is that on the way to that fortune, you may suddenly get killed by a bout of rain. That's what happened to at least 14 people yesterday, when a giant billboard fell on them. The billboard was massive, the largest in India. We know this because it featured in the Limca Book of Records. But now that it has collapsed, we find out that the billboard was built illegally. Mumbai's municipal corporation, the BMC, has finally filed a complaint after disaster already struck. But now the BMC has pledged to take down other billboards in the area. These are almost equally large and illegal. Only now that 14 people are dead does the BMC seem to think that they might be a problem. Only now, after intense scrutiny, are the authorities rushing to act. Are they really turning over a new leaf? Or are they just trying to look busy until people stop paying attention? Because this is Mumbai, home to the famous spirit of Mumbai. Locals say that it is a persevering, never-give-up attitude, to overcome all obstacles and go about one's business. It is what pushes people to wade through waist-deep floodwater every monsoon, or commute for hours in overcrowded trains, even when it means getting trampled in a stampede. That also happened yesterday, at Thane, a suburb near Mumbai. Trains were delayed because of the storm. When they resumed, a lot of commuters had gathered at the railway station. They were in no mood to wait any longer, so they all began fighting their way to the train when it finally arrived. Several women were knocked down in the chaos, and they were trampled upon as the others kept going forward. In other cities, this would be a scandal. Calls would be made for the railway authorities to resign over the unsafe conditions. But this is Mumbai. A stampede is just spirit pro max. But sarcasm aside, the spirit of Mumbai is a problem. Initially, the phrase was used to describe the city's resilience, but now it has become an excuse, something for officials to tout as they ignore their basic duties. Illegal billboards, spirit of Mumbai. Stampedes at stations, spirit of Mumbai. The waterlogging every monsoon because of unchecked construction work and overwhelmed drainage systems, spirit of Mumbai. For the people of Mumbai, their spirit has been corrupted and turned against them. Instead of a resilient spirit, it has become apathetic. They don't care about anything except getting to work and back, even as their city literally crumbles around them.
Speaking of dirty money, here's another case. A few years back, a meme was going viral on social media. It was mostly a Dubai thing. People living there would show off their life. Great cars, great houses, and great clothes. In the end would come a signature sign-off. They would say, Habibi, come to Dubai. I guess it worked, because that's exactly what has happened. A data leak shows that a lot of people did go to Dubai. Politicians, businessmen, sanctioned oligarchs, celebrities, defense contractors, even terror financiers. All of them have bought property in Dubai. How do we know this? Thanks to a data leak from the UAE. It covers a time period between 2020 and 2022. The data was shared with a Norwegian media outlet. They in turn collaborated with 70 plus news agencies, and together they produced this, Dubai Unlocked. Let's meet some of the notorious residents. Obaid Khanani has a property in Palm Jumeirah. He's a Pakistani national sanctioned by the US in 2016 for laundering money for drug cartels and gangs. Another resident is Joseph Johannes Leideckers, aka Chubby Joes. Don't fall for the cute nickname though. Dutch authorities say he's a major player in the global cocaine trade. A third example is Salam Shebani. He once featured in Europe's most wanted list. Today he's in a Swedish prison. The charges range from murder to fraud. Amid all of this, you have Pakistani politicians. Former President Pervez Musharraf had property in Dubai. So does the current President Asif Ali Zardari. 3 of his children have houses in Dubai. Bilawal Bhutto, the former Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Bakhtawar Bhutto and Asifa Bhutto. 2 of them are members of Pakistan's parliament. So you can imagine the reaction. Questions are being asked of the Bhuttos. Did they buy this property to evade taxes? And if so, they're not alone. There are 17,000 Pakistani owners in Dubai. Put together, they own 23,000 properties. Pakistan is second on the list of foreign owners. And guess who's first? Indians. There are more than 29,000 Indian owners in Dubai. They own 35,000 properties. Put together, it's worth almost $17 billion. Among them is Nirav Modi, the fugitive Indian businessman. He owns 3 properties in Dubai. Now, all of this raises a couple of questions. 1, why Dubai? And 2, why criminals and drug lords? Both answers are linked to each other. Real estate is a key part of Dubai's economy. It makes up almost 9% of their economy. Dubai is expected to deliver more than 34,000 houses this year, so the supply is huge. Chances are foreigners will snap up most of it. And a big reason for that is taxes. The UAE doesn't have any. If you live in Dubai, you don't have to pay income tax. So a lot of people stash their money there, away from the tax man. Plus, the UAE does not impose Western sanctions. Say you're a Russian oligarch or a sanctioned African businessman, you can't invest in Europe, you can't invest in North America, but you can invest in the UAE. Until recently, they had very few extradition treaties. So it's the ideal place to lie low, far away from Western law enforcement. And finally, the buying process is quite simple. Paying in cryptocurrency, no problem. Paying in bags of cash, again, no problem. The Dubai property regulators are quite lenient. They don't bother with background checks, it seems. Also, once you buy, your records are safe. Only a leak like this one will reveal your purchase. So Dubai checks all the boxes for a shady buyer. Secrecy, lack of background checks, no taxes, no Western sanctions, and the warm West Asian sun. I know the idea of drug lords bathing in the Dubai sun is borderline funny, but it's also risky. We're talking about dangerous people. Shouldn't Dubai be cracking down on them? Well, they say they are. The UAE says they are cracking down. One official, in fact, has rubbished this leaked report. He said the UAE takes the integrity of the global economy very seriously. So questions must also be asked of the watchdogs. One of them is the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force. In February, they removed the UAE from their grey list. But months later, this report emerges. Not a good look, is it? Especially for a country like the UAE, they have big plans lined up. They want to be a financial and technological hub. But for that, you must also be transparent. The UAE will have to come clean about these leaks. There's trouble in French paradise. I'm talking about New Caledonia. It's an island in the South Pacific, but it's ruled by France. And right now, the whole place is a battlefield. Major riots have broken out. Buildings have been destroyed, vehicles have been torched, and at least 5 people have died. It's the worst violence since the 1980s. Take a look at this. So what led to this? A new voting law. Around 40% of this island's population is Kanak. They are indigenous to New Caledonia. Europeans make up around 27% of the population. But this new law would have empowered the Europeans. Say you're a French resident on this island, you have lived there for 10 years. The new law allows you to vote in the provincial elections. But the locals do not like it. They say it will dilute the Kanak vote, which is why they are protesting, or in this case, rioting. And what is Paris doing to control the situation? President Emmanuel Macron chaired a Defense Council meeting. He also imposed a state of emergency. More manpower is also heading there. Around 1,700 security personnel are already stationed in New Caledonia. 1,000 more have been deployed. So Macron has made his intention quite clear. He will crack down hard. But one of his policies has raised eyebrows. A ban on TikTok. And no, I do not mean a social media ban. I mean only a TikTok ban. This app has been blocked across New Caledonia. Why? Because Paris says rioters are using TikTok to plan gatherings, to share slogans and to amplify the chaos. Has this ever happened before? French media says it hasn't. They say it's the first social media ban in Europe, but Macron has talked about it in the past. Last year, protests had broken out across France. The trigger was a police killing. A young boy of Algerian descent was shot by a cop. And that too during a traffic check. So thousands of protesters flooded France. Back then, Macron hinted at a social media ban. He said, when things get out of hand, social media must be cut off. And he's done exactly that. But is it legal? Well, brace for a surprise. European Union laws do allow for social media bans. Just one condition though. It can only be done during a riot. And this raises two important questions. One, why just TikTok? Can violence not spread via X or via Facebook? And two, why isn't anyone criticizing this? The first question does not really have an answer. Paris won't say why only TikTok has been banned, but their interior minister did drop a hint. He says there is quote-unquote foreign interference in New Caledonia. By whom? Apparently Azerbaijan and Russia. They've given no proof or reasoning for this allegation. But now to the second question. Where is the outrage? And we are not saying there should be outrage. After all, riots and protests are volatile situations. The last thing you need is social media rhetoric. But that's not the issue here. The issue here is the double standard. When other countries ban social media, there is outrage. And the EU is among the first to criticize. Just consider what happened in India's Manipur. Ethnic violence had gripped the state. So internet was shut down for a while. And what did the EU Parliament do? Pass a resolution against it. They asked India to end the internet shutdown. Will they do the same for France? Not from the looks of it. And this is not a one-off case. This is consistent Western behavior. We saw what happened in American colleges, a brutal crackdown on protesting students. Did anyone in the West criticize it? No, they did not. In fact, some governments in Europe copied American techniques and they too started cracking down. But if the same had happened in Asia or Africa, the story would have been very different. And do not get us wrong, we are not criticizing the TikTok ban per se. Sometimes governments do not have an option. They must put security first. We are criticizing the hypocrisy of it. A French minister blames Azerbaijan for the riots in New Caledonia and no one bats an eyelid. But if India accused foreign-based separatists, all hell breaks loose. It's all fairy tales and speculation. So I guess the mask is coming down. The events of the last few weeks have made one thing clear. The West is no one to lecture. Now let's talk about India. If you went to school here, I have a question for you. What did you enjoy doing in school? What did you enjoy the most? It could be playing during recess, going on class picnics, or taking tests. No judgments here. It doesn't matter what you choose. But if you were to repeat the same experiences today, chances are they would be marred. Thanks to the heat, temperatures are soaring in India. Several parts recorded their hottest April ever. And schools were affected. Students were exhausted. Some were coming home with nausea and headache. Some fainted. Many were unable to focus on exams. No wonder by the third week of April, people went into panic mode. Several schools shut down. several states rather shut schools. It was a first for some. Many states revised school timings, but only for a few days. It was a band-aid solution, but the heat has only persisted. The month of May has brought no relief. Temperatures have reached 45 degrees Celsius in many places. Today, India's Weather Bureau issued a warning. It said the country is facing the second heat wave in 3 weeks. So schools are looking for band-aids again. Some states have advanced summer holidays. Others have changed timings yet again. In Jharkhand, for instance, schools will begin at 7 a.m. In Bihar at 6 a.m. It's a vicious loop and it's not ideal. But these are the solutions for now: revised timings and school closures. And India is hardly alone here. Climate change is a global reality. Temperatures are rising across the world. Heat waves are becoming more common, so uninterrupted school year is becoming uncommon. This is true across Europe and America, but especially so in Asia and North Africa. 40 million students were shut out of classrooms in recent weeks. It started with South Sudan in the month of March. More than 2 million students were affected there. The Philippines and India followed suit in April, and Bangladesh is going back and forth between opening and closing schools, affecting 33 million students. And they don't really have a choice because heat impairs the brain. It lowers a child's ability to focus and to process information. So education suffers. Students tend to perform worse in tests. They face the risk of health problems. And why just students? Teachers and parents suffer too.
When the weather is so hot, it gives me a headache and I have difficulty staying to finish the class.
I don't feel well and get lost on what to do first when the weather gets very hot.
My home is far. My younger daughter's class breaks early, but the elder one is still in the school. Both of our two-way journeys by buses are tiresome due to the unbearable heat wave.
Safe to say schools are unprepared to deal with extreme heat, but playing ping pong with school timings is hardly the best decision. It is short-sighted. Let's take the example of Bihar. If school starts at 6 a.m., students will have to be up before 5 a.m. and parents even earlier. It would mean punishment for working parents. Plus, despite early timings, most schools go on till 1:30 p.m. How's that for avoiding the heat? And these timings rarely stick. They change constantly and take a physical toll on children. Add to that school closures, which is widening learning gaps. Not just between schools that can shift to a digital mode and those that can't, but also between nations. 17% of the world's school-aged children are already out of school. Most of them live in Asia and Africa. Repeated school closures will only make this worse for them. It's a complex and urgent problem, and climate-proof education is a big ask. So maybe we can start small and face the facts. Extreme heat is only getting worse, so it is time to rethink, well, time and our daily schedules. For instance, Cambodia has cut school hours by 2. Students now get an afternoon break there. Then we have companies like L'Oreal and Nike. They allow employees to leave work in the afternoon. Also countries like the UAE and Saudi Arabia, they have a midday work ban. Researchers say that in the face of climate change, shifting work hours is the need of the hour. What if we apply this to schools as well? Tell us what you think.